Morning guys, Mark Ferrasci, Protect Dog Training. As usual, I usually have Yack sessions in regards to what's going on. I got a client coming in with a Malinois next week, and they're going to take off on vacation, 10 days, whatever, and so they'll have the dog in for training. It'll be a little 5-month-old puppy. And it's happened many times. It happens all the time, and it kind of just blows my mind because of how much information we have out there and how many people like me that are yakking or videos online on YouTube that's all over the place. And so I really find it hard when I run into a customer that has no clue on how to treat a dog and do the right things and ends up getting a Malinois. Okay. And that's, now I understand kind of in a sense where this other trainer I was talking about that kind of belittled the person, where their attitude came from. And it's coming from running into a customer that's ignorant, but we're all ignorant in one way or another. We all have talents. I mean, I have no ability to do woodwork, right? I can't see. My brain can't visually see it backwards, is what you've got to do when you're working with woodwork, because it's maybe looking one way in your brain and you've got to be able to flip it when you do the measurements and you do everything. If you're doing carpentry of any type, as far as cabinetry, cutting in little holes maybe around a window, or doing anything that's little different woodworking, your brain has to work a different way. And if it doesn't, if you can't visualize it, you're not going to be any good at woodwork. And that's me. I'm no good at woodwork because I can't visualize it and get it to be backwards is what you've got to do. So I learned a long time ago. I've been around woodwork, construction, framing, all that kind of stuff when I was a kid, and I realized right away I was never really going to be good at it, right? So because of that, I knew that I didn't go into that as my trade, because I 2 left feet, that was me with woodwork, right? So we all have things that we're good at and things that we have, we're in tune with, right? And me, God gave me a gift. I'm in tune with animals. I have an ability to communicate with animals in general. I mean, I've worked with every animal you can think of. I used to be a manager for a major pet store chain. So taking care of animals, as far as snakes, lizards, birds, it doesn't matter. I've done it all. Fish was one of my expertise. So I just have an intuitive ability with that type of a thing. It's just my instincts. I'm good at it, right? Does that mean that that person that's not, that they're wrong, and that you should belittle them? No, it's just a matter of trying to educate them and teach them, right? They have to be able to see things and be able to understand the psychology of the animal. That's what it is. It's dog psychology. It's the psychological aspects of the dog, right? And in this case, we're talking about handler dependency and separation anxiety, okay? Same thing, handler dependency, separation anxiety, they're said differently, but they mean the same thing, right? So this person doesn't understand that, and they need to. So the biggest thing is there's all kinds of videos on this subject, guys. Just look up separation anxiety on YouTube and find out what you get. Years and years of videos, and they all have a certain opinion. But if you look at them, they all have some things in common, right? We do things to make sure that, first off, that we do not have separation anxiety set in. That's the most important thing. Don't even let it take root, right? Don't even let it get its ugly little fingers in there and become a problem. And if you do things right with young puppies, you'll never have to face the problem because you've been doing things properly and you're aware of it and you never let it set in. That's the most important part. It's a lot harder to overcome a problem than it is to not let it ever get started. All right, so that's what I'm trying to say in that respect, right? So the biggest things we want to do is we want to have chew toys, because young puppies, a lot of what we do with puppies, as far as their behaviors and the negatives and coming at you, chewing and barking and all the things a puppy will throw you, is not really a matter of training. It's a matter of management, and how you manage that puppy and what you do in dealing with that puppy is key. Right? If you do the things the right way, you have a crate for the dog, you teach them to get into the crate, that becomes a very secure area for them, and you start to build on that puppy development in giving them strength, teaching them to be left alone by themselves. At first it starts with little 5-minute sessions, walking out of the room, coming back in, making sure when you leave the house you have little chew toys for them so they have something to chew on that are safe. Remember that puppies, anything you leave with them, they are going to tear up and ingest, and so if you leave a little fuzzy in there, they're going to tear it up, and then pretty soon they're swallowing bits of it, and that could cause you a vet bill, right? You don't want that. So you want things that are safe, that are going to last, that the dog can chew on, and not really, you can leave it in there for hours, right? The Nylabone is a great example of that. Kong with in the freezer with some frozen food inside the Kong, so the dog has something to keep them busy, right? Get their brain to go somewhere else instead of, oh my God, mom just left me, right? And if you fulfill that psychological need, puppies got a need to chew on things. That's a very natural thing for puppies and for dogs in general, right? But for puppies, for sure. So we give them other things to outlet and get them into other psychological things, seeking behavior, finding things. I mean, there's all kinds of things you can use to get that dog in the head in a different place, right? And never let that anxiety ever set in. That's the key, right? So just a little word to the wise in regards to this puppy. It won't be too hard. It's a 5-month-old puppy, but at the same time, you know, if you get a good year-old, 18-month-old dog comes to you and somebody hasn't done the things the right way, and you have to try to counter condition and reverse that psychological problem, it may be something that's always with a dog to a certain degree. You may never ever be able to overcome it 110%, right? You've missed that critical development period, right? Very important to do things the right way when the dog's young, so that you deal with those psychological aspects of the dog in the right way, so that you develop them, right? So you give them chew toys that are going to keep them busy when you leave the room. When you leave, you do little short trips to the liquor store and back, 5, 10 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever it may be, and then leave the dog in a crate. That's management, right? The dog can't get into trouble. If you leave him have too much freedom in your house, the dog's going to tear up everything. And every time he does things like this, they're learning from those negative behaviors. They're learning negative things, bad things, just as well as they'll learn good things, right? So your job is to manage and keep it funneled in the directions that you want them to go, right? By using management tools, right? A good example of the reason I don't want to advocate harnesses on dogs. The reason I don't advocate a harness is because dogs have what they call opposition reflex. They want to pull into that harness. So you put the young dog on a harness, you let him pull you down the road, pretty soon the dog's pulling you everywhere, and you're wondering why you can't get the dog to not pull you all over the place, and it becomes very much of a negative, adverse situation for you, and that's why we don't use harnesses, right? I use harnesses for purposes that I need to use them in my training, but I don't use a harness usually for a dog when I'm walking down the street. I will use a harness on young puppies, but I can actually pick the puppy up and swing him here and swing him there. I don't use a harness past that point, and then I'll get off of that and go to a regular collar, right? So, all right, we are at Tractor Supply to work a couple dogs. I thank you very much for listening to my yakking, and this has kind of been done for my customer that I'm going to be pulling in next week. Try to give her some ideas. Chew toys, the crate, teaching the dog to be left by themselves. Getting rid of the harness will help you with the pulling, but we're going to have the dog in my hands, like I said, and then I'll kind of redirect all this and get it going in the right direction, and then I'll give the dog back to her, and then I will educate her and make sure that she does the right thing, so their family does the right things. I thank you very much, Mark Ferrasci, Protect Dog Training. Yakking about dogs as usual. Talk to you later.